Welcome to the 7 o'clock talk. I'd like to take a moment. I know there are a lot of people on the stream. So I'm Dr. Miller. I've been a chiropractor since 1995. I have my acupuncture license. I have my dual certification or a triple certification in functional medicine. So I've been doing this for quite some time. My wife, Jessica, has been a registered nurse, and go ahead and tell them all your accolades, everything you've worked on and done, and what you're doing now.
I don't have the letters that you guys do, but I'm a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for 15 years, and I have done the A4M program. So I am very passionate about people and health, and I am a good meld between medical and holistic.
She does a great job of, as a chiropractor, I don't really live in the medical world, but she does a great job of being an advocate for our patients. And with us, we have Amy Rawls, who has also a list of letters and accolades behind her name, and explain everything that you are, Amy.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on tonight. I'm Amy Rawls. I am currently I'm the Director of Education and Clinical Services at Transformation Enzyme Corporation. But my background, I'm actually a registered dietitian, and I have additional certifications as a functional medical nutrition therapist and a certified gastrointestinal nutritionist. And I've been in practice since 2008. I do have my master's degree in dietetics. And as a dietitian, I was, like Jessica, heavily allopathically trained.
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
And Jessica, just because you don't have a lot of letters doesn't mean that you don't have a
She has
impact in what you do.
She has experience.
I know a lot of people that aren't so great that have a lot of letters behind their name, so that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, I was allopathically trained, and it was around, I think, in 2016 when I was really struggling with kind of my own health issues and not really seeing the results I was hoping to see from different medications and the standard approach even that I was trained in. And I started to kind of dabble in I heard about this functional medicine thing and holistic medicine, and I started dabbling in that. And that's actually when I came across the company I'm currently with. I've been with Transformation now almost 10 years. And it was that company that really changed my life when I got started on the enzyme therapy. And it really shifted my practice, my approach, really how I view health in general. So, but that's just my backstory.
So I am typing into the chat. Anybody that wants to ask questions, feel free to type questions, and they should pop up and I will read them. But also, before we get started, Amy, I wanted to say thank you. One of our patient we've had now for 2 years, who's had a very difficult time with IBS-D. He had diarrhea for 10 years, and that has now resolved. And it has been resolved for over a month. We've had little hints that it was clearing up, but once we put him on the Thrive in 63, that finally was the nail in the coffin for the IBS-D. Now, with that said, we are here to talk about the craze and rage right now of GLP1 inhibitors, how we can actually enhance them. And then if you want to take a more functional approach, a more root cause approach, how you can actually replace them. And so, first off, Amy, why in the body actually produces GLP-1 if you have the microbiome for it and if you give it the assistance. But why are these important, and why should people pay attention to them?
Yeah, well, so I mean, your GLP-1, we do make it naturally. We all produce it. It's part of our metabolic hormones called our incretin hormones. And what those do is they help regulate our blood glucose levels, our blood sugar levels. And, the majority of our GLP-1s are produced in the small intestine and the colon, as well as our pancreas, right? And, they're triggered what triggers the GLP-1 release naturally is food consumption. And that release is going to happen, shortly after you eat. And it remains in your blood system for several hours. However, when you have poor GLP-1 production, and the reason I think we're seeing so much of it is because it's linked to things like you said, gut dysbiosis, lifestyle choices, and then different underlying metabolic conditions, which we know cardiometabolic disease is one of the number one things people are dealing with today. So that's the really, the importance of it is to regulate our blood sugar, our insulin release, as well as our glucagon release. And then also, our ability to release different enzymes and different things. So, and what the receptor agonists are doing, the drugs that everyone's getting on, is they're helping these people that have, stunted GLP-1 production. It's helping them manage their blood sugar levels, because of their ability to regulate your blood sugar, as well as there's a lot of different mechanisms that GLP-1s impact, as far as, how they impact the motility, even nervous system responses. They impact your, they impact our cravings. There's just a whole lot, which I'm sure we're going to get into, but it's definitely important, but we do make it.
Yes.
And there's a reason we're deficient, and it has to do with the same reason a lot of us are having issues today is lifestyle.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as a microbiome specialist person, however you want to categorize me, the thing that people need to understand is the bug that actually produces that in us is called Akkermansia muciniphila, actually. And so if you don't have that bug, which leads into the second question, why are we in the state where we don't have a microbiome like this? Why don't we produce the enzymes, to your point? What have we done to ourselves that has caused that, Amy?
Yeah, well, so, one of the biggest things that's going to impact your GLP-1 production is stress. But now we're stressed out. Right. And I don't know a single person on this planet, even my children. Like the other day, my 7-year-old was like, "Oh, I'm so stressed out." And I'm thinking, what the heck? Like, why are you got a rude awakening, buddy, when you get up. But he was at 7, he's saying he's so stressed out. And it's just the society today, and even these kids, and I'm not bashing it. I guess I kind of am, but I just have a problem with even the way sports has shifted. Kids aren't allowed to be kids anymore. There's so much pressure, whether it's coming from school or even extracurricular activities. They get home from school, then they have to go to practice, and when do they just get to be kids and play and get their microbiomes reinoculated with good bugs by being in the dirt, by being outside, by touching things with germs, So, stress is a big thing. There's also sleep. Most of us aren't sleeping well. Most kids aren't sleeping well too. So, I keep tying it back to that, I guess, because I see it so much with my own, but when we're getting kids to bed at 9-10 o'clock at night, and then they have to be at school at 7:30, and children are supposed to be sleeping 10 to 12 hours at those age ranges, they're deprived of sleep. And we know as adults, most people are lucky to get 6 hours. Yeah. Right. And so lack of sleep is going to impact your GLP-1 output. Then there's, our nutrition is huge when it comes to GLP-1 production. So what's going to help promote GLP-1 production is things like fiber. Fiber is also going to help. So the fiber, like you're talking about Akkermansia, which there are actually several strains of, different commensals that will stimulate GLP-1. Akkermansia is the main one I think that they're studying and using for marketing purposes, but there are other strains.
I think Roseburia, Phacobacterium, the main 3 that also maintain the gut.
Correct.
Are 3 of the major ones. But yeah, there are, to your point, there are a ton of them. I just simplified it to the one that's in all.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
and so things that are going to feed Akkermansia are fiber and polyphenols, right? Which are going to come from like your reds and purple fruits and veggies. Who's eating that on a daily basis? Most people are only consuming around 10 to 12 grams of fiber a day, and we're supposed to be getting 35. If you're not getting fiber, people think a probiotic's the best way to feed the microbiome. It's not. It's fiber. I call it the 3 F's: fiber, fermented foods, and phytonutrients. It starts with the pH, but it sounds like an F, so it counts, right? And so Those are the really big things. And we're not doing that. What that fiber is also going to do is release the short chain fatty acids, like you were talking about, that the Akkermansia help us produce, that stimulate GLP1 release from our cells. So those prebiotics and fiber are huge. There's also things like protein. Protein naturally stimulates satiety because it takes so long for your body to break it down. You know, when I'm specifically when I'm working with my weight loss people or my diabetic people, we go through that. We talk about how the body breaks down carbohydrates like this really quickly. It breaks down fats and protein more like this. It's a steady release of glucose, which regulates that insulin release to help you be able to burn fat. But it also stimulates satiety. That's why when you go eat Chinese food and have a lot of starch, you're going to be full initially and fill up, but you're going to be hungry again in about an hour because it was all starch. Versus if you went and had a steak dinner with a big juicy steak with good fat, right? A regular size baked potato, not one the size of, our head, but a regular about the size of your palm baked potato, and a ton of green, leafy, non-starchy veggies, you'll be full for hours. So you can actually get satiety, just by eating through using that method. But the problem is people aren't doing that. And then what they're also doing is they're following influencers that have no place, that should not have a stage for telling people how to eat for these types of things. Sorry, I said it, but they shouldn't. And, we're seeing these people just push protein. Guess what? We're seeing rise like crazy, colon cancer, and protein's not going to fix that. You know what is? Fiber. Right. And so there's things like that.
And kidney issues.
For sure. Yeah. And, those protein and fiber, those things also regulate our ghrelin release. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone, right? Leptin is the hormone that, tells you you're full. Ghrelin tells you you're hungry. So there's a lot of hormonal impacts that are, dictated by what you're putting in your mouth. And so that's really important. Then there's things like, the right types of fats. We know that studies have shown that our monounsaturated fats stimulate GLP-1 secretion, while saturated fats and saturated fats do not, right? And
so for our patients, and I want to take 2 seconds here. Amy is hitting all of the things that we talk about in the office when we talk about the 5 pillars to health: sleep, nutrition, movement, stress, and community. So when we talk about those things, they absolutely affect everything about your health. When she talks about fiber not only helps the microbiome, but to Jessica's point and specialty, hormones. It gets rid of the spent hormones. So if you're eating simply and you're eating fiber and you're eating good, whole, real foods, you are laying a foundation from which you can springboard and actually be really, really healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're good. No, that's good.
Explain to patients or to people that are listening what are monounsaturated. Give them some examples of monounsaturated and saturated, please.
So in a very simple, I'm not going to go high to the chemistry piece of it. Your monounsaturated fats are going to be solid at room temperature. Okay. So for example, things like butter, right? Things like coconut oil, right? Coconut oil is it's a healthier saturated fat, but it's still a saturated fat. Your bacon grease, things like that. Ghee, those are saturated fats. They're longer chains, meaning that I forget how it goes now. Actually, it's been a long time since I looked up. I used to have a whole handout on it. They're longer chains of fats though. And so they are harder to break down, more risk to them, more inflammatory. The reason, trans fats specifically are really linked to things like cancer, heart disease, and so forth. Saturated fats, the jury's out on that. There's on this side, people say saturated fats are bad. You got your vegans and things like that are going to tell you saturated fats are terrible. You got your keto people that say they're good. I'm a big believer in biochemical individuality, body typing, which is something we do at Transformation. And we do know that some people, and everybody's different. There's not this one size fits all approach, which is also why I hate that so many people are relying on Instagram and different things for their health advice, because your nutrition is about the most individualized thing you can do. You know, we're all individually unique in what we require and what we need. This is why some people will do great on keto and others do terrible.
I am a unicorn, that's how I was born.
You know, I was a vegan for 6 months, vegetarian, no vegan. I was vegan, went pure vegan. I watched that whole Forks Over Knives documentary, went all in, right? Fat, Sick, Nearly Dead, watched that one all in. I'm like, vegan it is. I gained 10 pounds. My hair started falling out. My thyroid went AWOL. I looked terrible, you know, but I loved it because I'm a body type that actually really craves and loves carbohydrates. So going vegan, that's right up my alley. I can have all the carbs I want, you know, even if it's veggies, they're still carbs. Whereas, you know, some people, but once I got on like a paleo diet, which was higher in protein, moderate fat, lots of fiber, non-starchy vegetables, that's the leanest I've ever been, you know, and that's still how I eat pretty much today because my body responded well to it. And there's changes that happen, you know, especially with women. You know, Jessica and I can definitely, we've had talks about this, you know, unfortunately for us guys get just better as they get older and we just go, it's really unfair. But those hormonal shifts, even our nutritional needs are going to shift as we age, where, you know, low carb used to be something that I really did well on. And once I started approaching age 40, I really wasn't responding to it. And it was actually making me more inflamed. And I felt better once I started bringing in more carbohydrates into my diet. So, what was the original question? I got on a tangent there.
Well, we were talking about, you know, examples of saturated fats.
Oh, yeah.
Those
are in general a saturated fat, solid at room temperature. So even like peanut butter has saturated fats, but it also has mono and polyunsaturated fats, which are healthier. The monounsaturated fats are going to be like your omega 3s, omega 9s, omega 11s. Those are the ones that have the antioxidant potential. They have the cancer fighting potential, the heart disease fighting potential, good for brain health. You know, you want your ratios to be good. Omega 6 is good too, but it can be inflammatory when you have too much. And that's
well,
be like
the American diet is all.
And the American diet is much higher in that. So good examples of your monounsaturated fats are going to be like avocados, which are also an excellent source of fiber, healthy fat, and different really just the fiber, and it's that healthy fat. It's rich in omega 3s and omega 9s. Great source of essential fatty acid. Chia seeds, I think it's macadamias that are rich in the 3s, but things like peanuts, macadamias and walnuts are your better nuts, but like peanuts and almonds are higher in specifically peanuts, really high in the omega 6. So that's really not the ideal nut you want. You really want like your walnuts, macadamia, and like your almonds. Those would be better. Other examples so like your olive oils, avocado oils, you know, those are better oils to go with if you want that monounsaturated fat versus like your butter and like bacon grease, lard, or if you're using like seed oils, which is a whole other debate too on seed oils. We're not talking about seed oils today.
For me, seed oils, if you're not, just a rule of thumb, if you're not heating them up and they come from a cold pressed natural source, I'm like, they got good omega 3s in them. But the minute you start to put heat to those things or they get exposed to the air, they start to oxidize. Anyway, so, you know, we answered a couple of the questions actually in all of that I was going to ask. So let's go into your realm. How do enzymes assist in creating and maintaining GLP1 and the microbiome that supports them?
Yeah. So I think first I want to let everybody know what enzymes are, because they're not as familiar as things like vitamin C or, you know, vitamins and minerals, or even herbs. So enzymes, all they are proteins, right? And what they do, so we have digestive enzymes that we make, and we have metabolic enzymes, but the ones that Dr. Miller is wanting me to highlight are digestive enzymes, as well as systemic. And we make them, but you can also supplement them, which is what I specialize in. So what digestive enzymes do is they break down complex food molecules into smaller, more easily absorbable forms. And that means that your body can better utilize them and utilize the nutrients in your food when consumed, even when it's in small quantities, like someone on a GLP-1 or with bariatric surgery, or if the pancreas is not functioning as well as it should be, which is the case with GLP-1 agonists. So I've done a case study on GLP-1, and we have tons of we have clinics that are working with us with their GLP-1 programs, and we know without a doubt that when people get on these GLP-1 drugs, the pancreas takes a humongous hit. The pancreas you have an exocrine pancreas and an endocrine pancreas. Your endocrine pancreas is responsible for producing hormones like insulin and glucagon, right, which help regulate your blood sugar. Your exocrine pancreas, that is responsible for your production of digestive enzymes and chyme, which is a liquid, a very acidic liquid, which supports digestion in combination with hydrochloric acid. So what the GLP-1s are doing is they shunt, or they get the exocrine pancreas takes a hit, and it basically stops producing enzymes. We've seen this time and time again. I use stool testing. Dr. Miller, I believe we use the same one. I use GI map, and every single time elastase and steatocrit tank. Every single time when they get on a GLP-1, I have before GLP-1 and then after GLP-1. So we have a baseline, and then what happens after. And then in the case study that I did, we have the baseline of no GLP-1, the midpoint of just a GLP-1, and then the next one with the enzymes in place. And you can see the elastase, which on that stool test is a measure of their exocrine pancreas function, the amount of enzymes they're producing. It went down to like 100 when they got on the GLP-1, and it went all the way up to 700 when I put them on the enzymes.
I wonder why that happens. Do they know the method? Do they know the method at why that happens?
Well, so your elastase marker on that stool test isn't a measure. It's not picking up supplemental enzymes, right? It's strictly measuring the function of the pancreas. So
yeah,
with enzymes, the way I like to describe them, yes, they're a digestive support, but they're pancreatic support. They take the burden off the pancreas. And we know that GLP-1s stress the pancreas. This is why if you're on a GLP-1 and you're working with a good practitioner that is really, doing the process as they're supposed to, they're going to be checking your pancreatic markers like amylase and lipase every 3 to 6 months to see where you're at. This is how they can prevent things like pancreatitis, which is one of the common, more serious side effects of these drugs, is by checking those markers. And I've also seen people when their amylase and lipase start to creep up, which what happens is, people, specifically those that are really needing them for diabetes or even severely obese, right? We have the microdosers, but we have our people that need like the 25 milligram dose, which is much higher. What we're seeing though is a lot of those people aren't able to stay on the dose that is helping them because their amylase and lipase are getting too high, right? Which puts them at high risk for pancreatitis. So, and the reason I did this case study is to validate my theory, which is if you would put these people on the enzymes, you can manage their amylase and lipase and keep their pancreas healthy, and they can stay on that dose that's actually clinically efficacious for them versus them having to come off of it completely. Not only that, what the enzymes are doing is they reduce the digestive discomfort, which is a huge side effect. The number one side effect of these drugs are the digestive discomforts, the nausea, the constipation, the reflux that you get from it. What the digestive enzymes do is they're helping to alleviate that, and they're helping with things like relieving you of the bloating and the gas. If you Google the symptoms of poor digestion, it is identical to the symptoms of a GLP-1 agonist drug. Identical. So, and that's why you feel that way, because you're not digesting anymore. And it's supposed to do that it's also slowing down the rate at which the food is moving through your body, right? So you have increased longer satiety, which is what I was kind of talking about earlier. You can do naturally with foods, right? So that's what they're doing there. The enzymes are also, they're supporting your blood sugar control. The body's response to sugars released into your bloodstream depends on various factors like how sensitive you are to insulin, your meal, overall health. What enzymes are doing, they help with your nutrient absorption. They don't impact your blood sugar levels. So a lot of people think, oh, well, if I take an enzyme with my meal, I'm going to break down these carbohydrates faster, and then my blood sugar is going to spike. It doesn't work that way. What we actually see is that enzymes support the utilization of various nutrients that you need for proper glucose metabolism. So people that need their glucose elevated, the enzymes help that. And the people that need their glucose brought down, they help. It's like a modulator, right? It helps to modulate those things. Yeah. Even with the Thrive in 63 study, which is the program you guys are using from ours, when we did that study, every person on that program lost weight except for one. And the one that did not lose weight was actually the individual that was underweight at the beginning of the study. And the weight she gained was not fat. She gained muscle mass. And
I think what we have seen, and we have a lot of people that take these GLP-1s, but when they don't have an Amy and they don't have somebody to help them, they get the GLP, but they don't get the nutritional background.
They don't get the education.
They don't change their diet, and so we see a lot of them wasting away. So they do get very thin, but they aren't healthy thin.
No, go ahead.
So to kind of satiate the title that we have under this, to augment your GLP-1s, you really need to use enzymes. So as you calorically kind of restrict yourself, because that's what the GLP-1 is actually doing. It is causing a form of restriction. Your digestion slows, your motility slows, evacuating slows. You actually need to give the GLP-1 help by doing an enzyme, because that helps the body actually extract the nutrition that it still needs.
Yeah, and you're already eating so little, so it's critical that every bit you're eating. A big misconception, even amongst practitioners, and this is my main job is to convince practitioners why they need these things. Every practitioner will agree with me that nutrition is key, but no one, when it comes to making sure that what we're doing with that nutrition is actually getting to where it needs to go by making sure we're digesting, everybody skips that part. We just assume that when we give these, when we prescribe a specific diet, that that person is efficiently utilizing it. And the truth of the matter is, if you aren't digesting properly, even an anti-inflammatory AIP diet or a keto, they're going to be inflammatory if you're not digesting. Okay, because carbohydrates are going to ferment, proteins are going to putrefy, fats are going to turn rancid, and that creates that ripple effect that I always talk about of toxicity and inflammation, right? So, enzymes actually really help promote healthy weight, because what they do, they don't directly cause hunger, but they indirectly can influence hunger and satiety by impacting how well you're absorbing those nutrients. I used to do a drawing for people and talk about, the importance of micro and macronutrients, right? Because you can have enough macros there, like fat, carb, protein, but if the micronutrients aren't there, then, did we freeze?
We froze for a second. I think your storms and our heat are taking its toll on the internet.
Oh.
But anyway, you were talking about the fats rancid and not digesting.
Yes. Yeah. So and that creates that ripple effect of toxicity and inflammation. But not only that, when we can't, if we're not getting the nutrients, right? Micronutrients like your vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, amino acids, they're all precursors to various metabolic things that have to happen, right? I mean, I love the Spectre Cell nutrient correlation wheels. I love to teach with these. I don't know if you guys use those, but if we look at, for example, let me just find the weight loss one really quickly. Hang on. Just to show everybody how important the micronutrient piece is. So
to your point, while you're looking that up, to your point is, it's a very simple saying. Yeah. You are not what you eat. You are what you actually digest.
Yeah, what you digest, assimilate, and fail to eliminate.
You can have the most amazing, cleanest diet, but if you can't utilize what you're taking in, then it's no better for you than any other diet.
Yeah.
So these enzymes we have seen really change
lives.
Yeah, our patients' lives.
And they're doing that by way of ensuring that those different micronutrients like B5 and chromium, like chromium helps you be insulin sensitive. Your lipoic acid helps with, your glucose. Calcium inhibits the formation of fat cells. There's all these different micronutrients and minerals and different things you need. But if you're only focused on protein, carbs, and fat, and it's a whole bunch of processed junk, I don't care what your macro split is, right? You have to have those precursors for these different metabolic signals to happen, right? That cascade of events that's supposed to happen. And not only that, enzymes are also going to impact your release of leptin and ghrelin too, those hunger and satiety hormones.
What
we-
the wheel you wanted to show the people?
Oh no, I was just I don't know if you guys can. Yeah, I mean, we could always like send it out, but it's hard to see on here. But vitamin A enhances expression of genes that reduce your tendency to store fat. B3, it increases your adiponectin, which is a weight loss hormone. I could go vitamin D, vitamin K. If you're only eating protein bars and drinking protein shakes, and again, these prepackaged processed things, you're not actually getting half of this stuff, right? And so it has to be a balance of micro and macronutrients, right? To get that. And then
we tell people that if it has an ingredients list and a nutrition facts, it's crap.
Contain potassium benzoate. That's bad.
Can I go now?
Because what you're reading is what they've added back into it, and it's never as good as what Mother Nature has given us.
Mother Nature knows best. Do not question it.
Yeah.
So,
And so, when it comes to just like what you said, where the enzymes play a role. So if you're not on a GLP-1 and you're looking for natural ways to stimulate GLP-1, digestive enzymes, proteolytic enzymes, they're all key, because the digestive enzymes, again, are ensuring that your body is getting those specific macro and micronutrients that you need to produce GLP-1, right? So, I mean, everything you do is relying on what you're putting in your body. Even if we talk about detox,
Yeah. So why don't you just slide right on into how the Thrive in 63? So people, if you're having problems with weight, even if you're on a GLP-1, but let's say you're not on a GLP-1 and you want to start to bring about the microbiome and you want to start to fix yourself without relying on medication, go into your program that you guys use, the Thrive in 63, and explain that to people and how that helps them.
Yeah. And it's also excellent for those on GLP-1s. But if you're not on a GLP-1, Thrive in 63 is great. So it's it's a 63-day program. It was not created with the intention of it being a weight loss program. It was actually created back in 2014 when leaky gut was all the rage. Leaky gut was just coming out. Right now, everybody's hyper focused on mold, right? Mold's like all the rage right now. And that's just the way of our world. But back then it was leaky gut, intestinal permeability, which is when your GI lining your intestinal lining separates, and your intestinal lining is supposed to be a closed system, right? The GI is a closed system. And the reason for that is it's ensuring that different pathogens and bacteria and stuff that's not supposed to be in your bloodstream doesn't get in there and elicit an immune response. And we'll get into food sensitivities in a minute and how that happens with leaky gut. But the reason we did this was because we were looking we were like, do we have a solution already? Before we considered bringing in some of the popular, products like glutamine was really big at the time. And we were like, well, wait, let's just see if our approach, because in theory, if you think about what we were doing, it should have worked. So that's what we did. And we kind of took an anti-inflammatory diet approach. The program, meaning that the program doesn't allow grains, legumes, caffeine, which that could say alcohol. It also, omits any, highly refined sugar, as well as dairy, right? And we pull those out because those are your main foods that are typically going to elicit a lot of inflammation in people. And since we wanted a more general program just to help people get started, that's what we did. And so it's the diet along with your complete protocol, which is designed to support digestion, reduce inflammation, support blood rheology, and modulate detoxification, GI lining support, as well as microbiome reinoculation with a probiotic. So it's just 4 products that are in there. And it's a much more simplified way of really combating whatever illness walks through your door, because at the end of the day, all disease begins in the gut and all health starts in the gut. So it just makes sense to start there, right? And what we have seen in the 11 years now that we've been really using, implementing this program and having practitioners implement this program, it's kind of fixing everything. We have practitioners that are using it for fertility. We have practitioners that are using it we have estheticians that use this for skin. We have dentists that use this. So it can really hit all the different modalities. Obviously, dietitians, I wish I had known about this when I was heavy in my weight loss specialty at the job I had, because I was always having to create meal plans. The program, it's 3 booklets that you would get, and each booklet has 3 weeks worth of different meal plans. So it's 9 meal plans total. And every meal plan comes with a different set of recipes. So it's not like you're eating the same recipes in all 3 phases. It's different recipes in each book. I forget how many recipes total, but it's close to 100 that you're going to get. And, you know, we rotate them out. I'm a mom of 2 very young kids. So simplification was really key when we were reworking this. I think I redid it back in around 2020 or 2019 to make it more user-friendly. It also contains grocery list, which to me is huge. You know, it's really hard to figure out, especially when you're new to learning how to eat right. The grocery store can be very intimidating. So we also added that in and provided a grocery list. There's also an approved food list in here. So for example, if there's a food you don't like on your meal plan, you can sub it out for one of the other, you know, foods that are in there. So we have like the vegetables all lined out. So let's say you had spinach on there and you hate spinach, you would just go to, you can't see it because of the light. You would just go to your non-starchy vegetable section and pick out a different one to sub in there. So the idea was to make it to where anybody could do this, whether they were working with a practitioner or not. And you know,
so it's a do-it-yourself solution.
Huh?
You know, it's a do-it-yourself solution. What I want people and patients to understand is, you don't need us for this.
Right.
This does foundational health for you, and it
Right.
helps clear up a lot of the I call it static. And so I'm old enough that I remember the old televisions before cable that you had to do the fine tuning to get rid of the static. This takes care of that, so that if you actually have a true underlying problem, whether that be, you know, a Hashimoto's or whatever doesn't clear up, that's when you need somebody like us.
Correct.
But this takes care of those first steps, and it does a fabulous job, and it's do it yourself, to Amy's point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, I have it where it's portioned out. So you will be it creates a deficit for a lot of people. We see on average, depending on the person, I know you guys have some stories already, but on average around 20 pounds is what we'll see people lose, depending on now, if they're only 5 pounds overweight when they start. We're not, but they see other improvements, and you know, I call them non-scale victories, right? So we see things like our inflammation improve. You know, I know Jessica's feet stopped hurting for the first time in years. You know, we have people, you know, you guys had a gentleman y'all were telling me about, and we've had several like this, chronic diarrhea their entire life that stops once they get on this program. And what I personally love about the program is, unlike a lot of ones that are out there, this is teaching you. It's teaching you how to shop, how to cook. Because here's the thing, you can get on Nutrisystem or you can do some 7-day detox. Guess what? You're going to be right back where you started when you get done, because you didn't learn how to live the lifestyle piece. You know, we talk about movement in here. We talk about the importance of water and really teach you, because it's very sad how many people don't know how to read a food label. You know, how many people don't know what a carbohydrate is or what a protein is. And that it's, you know, that's also what kind of drove me to create our Thrive in 63 for Kids program, because we have to hit people so much. We got to start when they're kids. We can't wait till people are 20 years old. You know how hard it is to change a habit when someone's been doing it.
Damage has already been done too.
Yeah. So it really has to start much earlier. So we do have a Thrive for Kids as well. The recipes are a little different. They're more kid focused. So really, I wanted it to be inclusive for the whole family, so everyone can do it. Yeah.
Just as an aside, because we see it a lot, people think that these GLP1 drugs have no side effects, have no damage. You actually did a podcast with another practitioner talking about skin damage and what it does to the face, and you guys called it Ozempic face.
Yeah.
You know, kind of explain what the GLP-1s do to people because of the lack of protein, of the lack of movement, and how much it this way you're not just hearing it from me, you hear it from somebody else talking about the dangers of these drugs.
Yeah. So Ozempic face is the term they're using, which honestly, you can get Ozempic face from any drastic weight loss, right? I've seen it. Like I was in bariatrics for almost 6 years and I saw the same things, and they weren't on a GLP-1, but they had extreme malnutrition and malabsorption, right? And they lost weight too fast. They weren't able to hit their protein. And so that was a big part of it. So the GLP-1s, yes, they promote weight loss, and that can also lead to loss of facial fat and muscle mass, right? And that results in that gaunt, hollow appearance that you see. Like Sharon Osbourne is kind of the keynote example that a lot of people will use when they're talking about Ozempic face. But you'll particularly see it around like the cheeks and eyes and the jawline. It ages you. When you lose too much weight, I call it the melted candle look, but it can make you look, it'll age you because you get more. It'll age you because you get more prevalent wrinkles. It causes your skin to lose its elasticity, but you're also going to lose elasticity when you don't have that collagen production from lack of protein, right?
Yep.
So it can cause the skin to sag. But so I kind of don't like the term Ozempic face because it's like, well, that's kind of unfair to like bully Ozempic about it, because this will happen with any drastic weight loss, right? Even if you're on if you have bariatric surgery, or if you have just went into anorexic, if you went into some extreme caloric deficit, you can get that gaping look if you're not getting the nutrients you need. And a lot of people on Ozempic aren't eating more than 500 calories a day, which, back to the case of the enzymes where they help, is because of their ability to mitigate the side effects of nausea, distension, bloating. You're able to actually eat more, right? Which you would think would make you gain weight, but that's not it. Because the reason most people aren't able to lose weight is not because they're eating too much, it's because they're insulin resistant. And that's what the drug is doing. And I say that because I've had a lot of arguments with men specifically, a lot of these, fit influencers. It's, thermodynamics. I'm like, it's not just thermodynamics. It is not just calories in, calories out, And if you actually worked in this space, you would understand that there's a big hormonal piece there, including insulin resistance, right? And that's why the drug has its benefits.
Got to remember, what's the age of most of those influencers? They're sub 25
right.
years
I know
old.
It's like, if you're 40, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait until your hormones change. Wait till you reach that age of 25 and the metabolism goes, see ya.
Well, and I'm like a poster child for all that, because we've done it all and I'm still overweight. But the enzymes, and I have tried the GLPs ones, and I currently use them at a microdose, but the enzymes mitigate almost all of those symptoms. But I was fascinated by the just a tidbit. I never get hungry, ever. I don't even remember ever being hungry until I started taking the enzymes, and then I needed to eat. But I still lost weight. But I was eating more food. But it does mitigate the side effects of your GLP-1, and I think it. I understand the importance of a GLP-1 for a lot of people, but you can enhance that for even more, because I think now they're taking it just for weight loss, but they are forgetting the nutrition piece.
Well, and we need to preface what you said there with a couple of things. One is her HSCRP is high. 2, her insulin is high. And I will put her diet against anybody's diet. Her insulin is not high because she's sucking down sodas and eating chips. Her insulin is high because she has a lot of metal in her legs from previous accidents. And so that is causing issues.
Well, I mean, but that was to her point, like the 25-year-olds that they think you. I mean, I fasted for 40 days and didn't lose weight. So I totally feel for the men and women out there that are struggling, that have nutrition on point, that have, their movement on point, that are sleeping well, but are still struggling. And so I think that's where a lot of people go to the GLP-1s, but these enzymes are a game changer for a lot of people. Regardless of whether they help them lose weight or not, they still feel better.
And so, Amy, I really appreciate your time, and I want to be very appreciative of your time. We're going on 45 minutes, and I know you have a family and stuff. So I know we're supposed to get into food sensitivities. Let's save that for another time. We'll talk about that. You guys have actually been nice enough.
Sure.
So for Transformation Enzymes, if you go to Transformation Enzymes and you pick up the Thrive in 63, you can go to integratedhealthofindiana.com, go to the products page, and we actually have their link there. You can go pick up the Thrive in 63 phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. But if you pick that up and you use in the coupon code Dr. Miller, they're actually being nice and allowing a 10% discount, I believe isn't that what they set up? So, and what would you like to say in conclusion? Because I don't want to hold you from your family. This went a little longer than
sorry. No, you're good. I'm good till 7, so I'm good. So I'm an hour behind you. So yeah. I'm good. I think so with the Thrive. So just so you guys are clear, remember it's the diet and eating piece plus the enzymes that we're talking about. It's going to contain a digestive that is going to help you break down and assimilate those nutrients from your food efficiently so that you're getting those precursors for natural GLP-1 release or, regular metabolism, right? Regular blood sugar glucose control. And also getting ahead of that toxicity and inflammation that can happen when you don't digest. Because here's a fun fact, guys. As you age, just like your hormones start to creep down, so does your enzyme output. Your enzyme propensity starts to go down about 10% every 10 years once you hit around age 30. So before I was in bariatrics, I was actually in long-term care, and I worked in different nursing home facilities as the corporate dietitian for there. And I wish I would have known about enzymes, because the amount of decubitus ulcers that I could have helped by having proteolytic enzymes there, not only for the blood circulation and the inflammation and the healing aspect, but for the proper breakdown of protein. I'm shoving Prostat, which is a liquid, high protein supplement you can drink, down these people like crazy. And proteolytic enzymes are one of the first ones that you kind of start to decline on. And that's why as people get older, you'll notice, just start to pay attention. They kind of shy away from meats. Because it gives them digestive issues. They get tummy issues and whatnot because their enzyme production has gone down so much. So that's what the digest is doing. The program also contains what's called a protease, or a proteolytic enzyme in there. The first phase has a product in it called PureZyme, which is our gentle protease, and phase 2 and 3 have our stronger one. And what that product is doing is it's hitting inflammation, right? So any condition, whether it's autoimmune, whether it's, your blood sugar can be driven up by inflammation, whatever, it's going to hit inflammation, toxicity. It modulates the immune system. When we get sick in this household, we don't take over-the-counter medicine. I load up on protease. My boys too, when they get a fever, they get PureZyme or protease, whatever I have on hand, because it's a modulator too. It doesn't shut off inflammation. You want inflammation to be modulated, not shut down, because we need it, right? That's what tells our body, like, hey, we're in trouble. We need some help. So that's what that protease piece is doing. It's really supporting that aspect of it. And then there's a product in there. The first phase has a product called GastroZyme, and the second and third phase have a product called Gastro. Their names are different, but their rationale and what they're doing is similar. The GastroZyme is just our sensitive, more gentle one. But what those two products are doing is they're helping to mend. Remember I talked about the intestinal lining separating and how that can be bad. And when that's separated, that elicits a lot of health issues. And so what those are doing is helping to close that GI lining up so that the GI can go back to being a closed system, and we don't have systemic inflammation and toxicity happening that's going to create disease. And then it's also great for people that are using, like, if you're on a proton pump inhibitor like Protonix or Zantac or any type of reflux medication, replaces that. There's tons of side effects with those drugs. You get zero side effects with the GastroZyme, which is a blend of, yes, enzymes, but also different herbs and botanicals that are known for their ability to be mucilaginous and mend that mucosal lining. And then the last piece of the program, supplement wise, is just a probiotic. And then the diet is full of phytonutrients, fiber, fermented foods. It's high in protein, loaded with healthy fats. Does have saturated fat, but the good ones, and then tons of your monounsaturated fats. Everything we talked about for stimulating your GLP-1, for regulating weight loss and satiety, it's all here. It's all here. So I would use this even if I didn't work for this company, right? I kind of wish I had just created the kids one on my own. Like I should have just done that on my own and sold it as mine, but no, I would never. It's a wonderful company. That my heart is the same mission, that my heart's with them, so it's all good. But yeah, it's great for that. And we have a support page too. There's the Thrive in 63 Facebook page. So if you do decide to join, yes, please be sure to use that code to get your discount. But when you sign up, you should also be able to go to thrivein63.com, and you can actually request to be added to our Facebook group. On there, I moderate it, and I post recipes. I post different health articles and kind of hot topics that are coming out, lifestyle tips, and field any questions and answers that you have, because Dr. Miller and Jessica might not be available and you might have a question. And so I can also answer on there. And we have the whole group. We have around 300 members right now, and I'd love to get even more. And the members are really good at offering advice and support and sharing what they're using and doing, because there might be something in here that I forgot. I think, like, what's one of the big ones? There's one food. I'm like, I can't remember. I can't list every single food item, in there. And so it's just good.
Oh, yeah. Too big.
But I mean, do we have any questions before we get off? Does anyone have any questions?
I saw one comment, but I really didn't see any questions. And we have people watching, so if you have questions,
Like, is anybody there?
Yeah, right now is the time to ask, because you have us on here, and I mean, people pay us a lot of money for our time, and you. So if somebody has questions, go ahead and fire it in there. The thing I will say is, make sure. Are Jess and I in the Facebook group?
You're not. You have to request. You gotta request to be added.
I guess I got to figure out how to do that. I might have to
I'll do
call
that this
Elena.
evening.
I'll tell Jessica what to do.
Okay. But once again, this has helped a lot of our patients. And
A lot of our patients that have been excellent patients that
Yeah.
do all the things right, and they just couldn't be their best, or what they felt like their best was. And this has been that last piece for them.
I have used protease personally now for, golly, I don't know how many years. When I broke my neck in Ocracoke, Mother Nature decided to pile drive me. I never wanted to go into the WWE, but I now know how some of those guys feel. And I broke the C5 process, that C5, C6, that I didn't get haloed. I'm not telling people to do this, but I was on protease already, and I never had to do anything extra with it. The other thing is I used protease when I had my wisdom teeth cut out, and I never even touched any of the narcotics. So for people who are maybe have that addictive personality, I would absolutely recommend protease. If you're going in for a surgery, take it before, 3 to 4 days before, 2 tablets, 3 times a day. And afterwards, just string it out for 30 to 60 days. You will be absolutely amazed. It actually changed. She had a back surgery, and we had her on protease. We also did pretty high dose vitamin D and calcium and some other things. And her orthopedic surgeon was absolutely flabbergasted, because she walked out of there on no drugs. Mm-hmm. And they cut her bladder. I mean, not intentionally, they weren't, but they cut her bladder, and she walked out of there without anything, and then went in for her follow-up. She drove herself catheterized. And They I can't say enough. It's pretty amazing stuff. If I had children playing sports and getting beat up and whatnot, they would all be on protease.
One of our advisors. So we do a lot with the NFL and some of the big professional athletes. One of our advisory board members is a NFL Hall of Famer, and if you look at him compared to his teammates and other players that are around his age, you would never know this guy played pro football because he's so agile and still moves. He credited he 100% to the enzymes. He's a huge advocate, but we have a lot of athletes as well as surgeons that use it, and definitely for
post-op, absolutely.
Oh yeah, but your soreness and helping with your joints and all of that. We are published in PubMed as well with our formula. It was a third-party study, and we have other studies. We've done studies with the University of Houston and some of their athletes who had torn ACLs, and these athletes had no surgery and were able to their reflex measures and some different markers. A lot of the inflammatory markers you need to actually do a whole separate one on protease and have Dr. B on and talk about,
Well, I think that's kind of in the works because we do want to talk to him about that. I was just thinking, for those that don't know, Amy is in Texas and we're in Indiana, and we have our Pacers just did a great job, ended up second, but you guys might want to sponsor that Shelby Cunningham and that Caitlin Clark because they just keep getting crap kicked out of them.
I know. God, that's crazy. I don't know how that got in my
Sophie.
Sophie, I am not a sport.
No,
fan.
not at all.
I hate basketball really, but I would almost bet I would buy a Sophie Cunningham jersey just for the grit that girl has.
I know. I love it.
And I followed Caitlin since she was a rookie, and I like her, and I do like the Sophie Cunningham girl. But yeah, I was just sitting there going, yeah, you guys should probably say, hey, while you guys get beat up, you might want to try this.
Sponsor protease for your eye, for when you get poked in the eye. Try protease.
Oh God. How she doesn't. I when I played sports, when I played soccer and stuff like that, I wish I'd had this. I use protease all the time with weightlifting now. But man, I wish I had something like protease just for recovery.
Well, and I know we're talking about the digestive enzyme specifically, but anybody out there that's suffering with like thyroid issues, hormones, the Masterzyme.
She added that. Oh, that on your recommendation, she added that.
I love the Masterzyme is a wonderful product. And then I know there's a lot of people that in our practice that have detox issues. I have detox issues, lymph issues. I put the L-Drain. I love the L-Drain. You guys have so many products, and they're real. I always tell everybody the body's pretty simple, but super complex all at the same time. And it's very simple. Like it's so simple. I carry my little baggie around everywhere I go. I have to have it. They're like, what is wrong with you? I need my enzymes. I mean, I do carry them all over the place. And I'm not carrying a grocery bag full of supplements. I'm actually just carrying the few.
And as we get our functional medicine patients over their Hashimoto's and over their lupus and over their things, we actually scale them way back to basically just enzymes, a multiple. And we're in the Midwest, a fish oil because we don't have good seafood here. And they're loving life. I mean, they are all doing stuff. At 54, I can do squats. None of my other family can because knees hurt and stuff like that. People, it's possible. I didn't start actually paying attention to my health until I was in my 40s.
Yeah, I have had 3 ACL surgeries on my right knee, and I currently have a torn ACL right now. I think I'm bone on bone is what they told me. I'm gonna have to have a total knee when I'm older, but I'm still able to run, work out. I think the ACL is torn. I'm not really sure, but with all of that, and you know how bad that can be, and I credit that 100% to the enzymes. I don't think I would have.
How much protease are you taking?
I take a lot. I take a lot of protease. I use the Joint Health too, which really helps. But yeah, I want to, piggyback real quick on what Jessica said. And I'd said it at the beginning. When I discovered transformation and the enzymes, it completely changed my approach, because getting into functional medicine, and I think we kind of get a bad rap from people, is it becomes, we're called like this money pit, because instead of using a bunch of different medications, we're using a lot of different supplements, and the body is complex, but the solution doesn't have to be. Yeah. What we have seen and what I saw when I started just using really what Transformation calls their foundation program or their healthy gut program, with myself, 3 days turnaround in many of my symptoms, but even with my clients. And, I have people to this day I haven't seen in years that are still on them, but it's just taking those 3 things. And the Masterzyme I do love. If you suffer from any type of endocrine, PCOS, it's good for males too, prostate, libido, perimenopause, postmenopause. This product, just like it's saving me right now. I love that product. And if you have questions about it, you can absolutely, reach out to Dr. Miller and Jessica. And if you got, they can reach out to me if they have questions. I can direct them back to you guys on any of that kind of stuff. We have webinars and different things that we do as well that are they're made for practitioners, but some are, a lot of, I feel like people nowadays, especially if they're listening, are what we call the biohackers, so they'll understand it. So different ways y'all can learn.
So as we have actually used your last 15 minutes up, to close out, if you're on a GLP1, absolutely add enzymes, because you really need to extract all the nutrition that you can from the food that you eat, because we're in the Midwest and you all see the people that ride around with their 40 ounces of soda on their scooters and can't get up and get out, and they're big people. They're definitely getting the calories. They're not getting the nutrition. And just before, that doesn't mean you can sit there and drink soda and you're going to get nutrition out of it, because there's zero nutrition in soda. There's nothing in that is good for you.
Enzymes don't recognize genetically modified foods either.
Yeah. Oof.
So that's the other thing.
Huh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they'll help to some degree, but yeah.
So absolutely add enzymes if you're doing a GLP-1. And if you're not doing a GLP-1, but you're thinking about it, try enzymes, try the diet, because it really is a do-it-yourself. All you got to do is read. If you need help, Amy and the Facebook group is there. Otherwise, Jessica can handhold. If you're a patient on here and you're thinking about it, we can handhold you through it. Whatever the case may be, we're just here for you. We're giving up time on a Tuesday because the information is important to you, your health, your family, and society as a whole. Because as we keep going down this path of crappy foods and crappy nutrition and crappy health, guess what? We lose productivity. We lose happiness. We lose purpose. And that just is despair and whatnot. And we want you playing with your kids and your grandkids. And if you so want to, your great grandkids. Because that's kind of what life's all about. I mean, at the end of the day, when you are going to meet your maker, do you care about Ferraris and houses and whatnot? Or would you rather have your family around you saying, hey, we're going to miss you. We loved playing with you. We were glad you were there. To me, that's what it's all about. If you're all about the Ferraris and stuff like that, guess what? If you hurt, you can't drive them.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
So, Amy, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Our patients appreciate it. You can find Amy at Transformation Enzymes. If you need a shortcut to that, you can go to the Integrated Health of Indiana page, go to the products. Transformation Enzymes is one of the companies that we use. They are highlighted. They will give you 10% off for using the Dr. Miller code. And, just go be the best you can be. Thank you for your time. We
Yep,
appreciate
thank
it.
you
And we will see you next time.
guys. Bye. Great seeing you guys.